Hi everybody, Saturday morning and it's a cold but bright day, got my woolies on. I was reading yesterday about the royal tour in Australia, Meghan Markle and Harry, or should I say the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. In 4 days, Meghan Markle's clothes, the Duchess of Sussex's clothes, have cost in excess of £17,000. 4 days. So that's something like, I don't know, I haven't converted it properly, but something like $25,000. 4 days. And where is all this money coming from? They said that Eugenie's wedding cost around about 3 million. I think you can at least triple that, at the very least. To say nothing of the poor people swept up off the streets. And to those people who revere the royal family, why do you? You can revere continuity, you can revere Shakespeare, you can revere the palaces, the castles, the tombs, even the tomb of Catherine of Aragon, which isn't at Westminster. She was buried in ignominy in Peterborough, because of course Henry VIII was very, very glad when she passed, so he could marry Anne Boleyn. And we had Anne Boleyn then on the throne, but she'd already had a child out of wedlock, that child who became Elizabeth I. And the point I'm trying to get through to people is that the royal family down the ages has always been defined by divorce, insanity, affairs, illegitimacy, cruelty, and blatant misuse of taxes. There were cousins of the Queen Mother, that same Queen Mother who everybody supposedly loved in the UK and around the world, cousins or nieces who were all locked away in a mental institution. There were 5 of them, all with similar mental illness, or what was defined as a mental illness. All of them ignored by the palace, even though they had the surname Bowes-Lyon, some of them. Living at the cost to the NHS, no funds coming from the palace, and being given paupers' funerals, not a state funeral, as was given to every royal, as was given to Wallis Simpson. And the point I'm making is, what is royalty? What is it but a mishmash of overprivileged, overindulged people who are no better than anybody else? A few hundred years ago, I'd have been burnt at the stake for saying that. I'm not just going to come on here and just tell you about these cousins off the top of my head, although I know about them. I'm going to read you something. It was in Burke's Peerage in the 1960s, 1961 I believe, that these cousins were written down as being dead and gone. No, they weren't. There was one who lived for another 20 years, most lived till the late 80s, mid-90s. All of them ignored, all of them locked away in the 1940s, 1941 or thereabouts, when they were teenagers. So I'll read you a little bit. Let's see. The Queen's cousin in a substandard care home. Miss Vane, her name was, a cousin of Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, given a pauper's funeral after dying alone at a state institution for the mentally unstable. Idonia Fane. She'd been shunned by the royal family for 60 years. Her existence was not recognised by Buckingham Palace until 1987, and it was revealed she'd been living in a mental institution, since 1941, 46 years, and they did nothing for her then. She died aged 89 in 2001. She was in that home. I'm just picking the bits out here. Miss Vane lived in different homes with another relative, Catherine Bowes-Lyon. And of course, the Queen Mother was Elizabeth Bowes-Lyon. She lived in homes with another relative, Catherine Bowes-Lyon, also related to the Queen Mother. The pair had a mental age of 6 and were inseparable until the home closed, and then they were split. After which, 4 months later, Miss Vane died. Miss Vane is buried in the same grave as her sister Ethelreda, who died in 1996. Nerissa Bowes-Lyon, Catherine's sister and a cousin of the Queen Mother, lies just 2 plots away. Miss Vane was one of 5 children, including Nerissa, Catherine and Ethelreda, all of whom were locked away. In the early years of their life, the Bowes-Lyon family did visit, but nobody from the royal household. When Nerissa Bowes-Lyon died in the mid-1980s, she was buried at Redstone, her grave marked with a plastic tag bearing a number and her name. Burke's Peerage said she had died in 1940, 45 years earlier. I'm not going to read any more. That is the royal family. That is the calibre of family that we are supposed to look up to. We had Edward VII's son, John, who also was known, they called him an oddball. That's not my word, that's their word. They called him an oddball. And I think he died around about when he was 28 years old anyway. And royal family breathed a sigh of relief. And then, of course, we've got The Madness of King George. Have anybody seen that movie? The Madness of King George. Possibly syphilis, as I say. The notoriety of the royals, that recessive gene that runs through the family of them being, they can't be faithful to anyone. They can't do anything unless it's going to progress them, unless it suits them, unless it's to their benefit. We can go right back to Henry VIII. Again, discarding Catherine of Aragon and saying that she was never his wife, that Princess Mary was never his heir, and the bastard child of Anne Boleyn, Queen Elizabeth I, being put on the throne of England. Be disloyal or say any different and you were burnt or beheaded, as John Fisher was, Thomas More was, Margaret Pole was. Those were dangerous days. Do you still think we don't live in dangerous days? Does anybody really think that what happened to Princess Diana and Dodi Al-Fayed was an accident? Can anyone believe that with the security not only surrounding Diana and her bodyguard who was in the car with them, plus Dodi's carers, you know, the heavies, does anyone believe that Henri George would be allowed to get into that car, to go near them, breathing alcohol fumes, let alone drive them anywhere? They're still dangerous days for anybody who may step out of line. I honestly think that the time of the monarchy is now dwindling. I like our history, the palaces, the castles, the tombs. I like visiting the Tower of London for the history. It wouldn't be bad to have certain members, a few, in situ, in a palace, in an apartment, with the rest of the palace being open to the public. But not all the hangers-on. And let's get rid of this obsequious subservience that we have to these people who are no better than anyone else. Brings me back to Miss Markle, the Duchess of Sussex, which started all this. Had Prince Harry been the boy next door, a runner for the studios, the tea boy, does anybody think that she would have given that ginger gentleman a second look? But he's a ginger prince and the son of Diana. So Miss Markle, Duchess of Sussex, must think that after all her years of striving and all the soft porn and her 2 marriages, one was an old, one was her marriage, she's the cat who got the cream. Word of advice, Megan. I mean, you won't hear me, but a lot of people will be giving you the same advice. Don't put a foot out of place. It's still a very dangerous world out there. Be warned.